She was just a cleaner, silent, invisible, and forgotten. But one quiet night, something happened that would change everything. Why did this humble woman beg for leftover food instead of money? Where did she go after work? And why did her boss end up following her into the dark? What he discovered not only shattered his heart, but also transformed hers. This isn't just a story about poverty. It's about sacrifice, dignity, and the quiet strength of a mother's love. It's about how one act of kindness, at the right moment, can rewrite an entire life. If you've ever wondered whether small actions truly matter, this story will give you your answer. Because in a world that often overlooks the quiet ones, you're about to witness how being seen, really seen, can spark a miracle. Stay with us, because Emma's journey will touch your soul and leave you forever changed. What if the person you ignore every day is hiding a story that could break your heart? In the heart of Abuja, where tall glass buildings cast long shadows over the streets and luxury cars line the roads, there was a grand restaurant known as the Golden Plate. It was a place of elegance and wealth, a space where the rich gathered to feast and toast to their successes. Yet, within its shining walls worked a woman no one really noticed. Her name was Emma. She wore the brown and gold uniform of the cleaning staff, and each day she moved silently between tables, sweeping up crumbs from tables where she could never afford to sit. She never spoke much. She never smiled too wide. Her presence was like a whisper in a crowded room, always there, but never truly seen. Every night, as the lights dimmed and the last customers left, Emma would do something unusual. She would quietly walk to the back of the kitchen, hands clasped, eyes lowered, and softly ask a single question. "Is there any leftover food I can take home?" Not once did she ask for money. Not once did she complain about the long hours or hard labor. She only asked for leftover food. It became a quiet ritual, one no one paid much attention to. After all, she was just the cleaner, just another face behind the scenes. But there was a mystery about her that no one could quite explain. Where did she go after work? Why did she never eat anything herself? What kind of life waited for her beyond the gates of the Golden Plate? The other staff didn't ask, the managers didn't care, and the customers, well, they never even knew her name. Until one night, her quiet world collided with someone who did notice. Mr. William, the wealthy owner of the restaurant, happened to see her standing near his luxury car, head bowed, asking once again for leftover food. Something about her stillness, her silence. It touched something deep inside him. And that night, he decided to follow her. What he discovered would not only change how he saw Emma, but how he saw the world. Because behind her silence was a story of pain, sacrifice, and a mother's love that would soon open his heart in a way he never expected. Sometimes, one quiet moment can shake the heart of a man who thought he had everything. The night was calm in Abuja. The customers had gone, the kitchen had quieted, and the glow inside the Golden Plate was soft and warm. Mr. William, the wealthy owner of the prestigious restaurant, stepped out of his office and loosened his tie. His steps were slow. He was tired. Business was good. His black SUV gleamed just outside the door, ready to take him home to yet another quiet, luxurious evening. But then, he paused. Near his car, someone was standing, a woman, still, silent, dressed in the simple brown and gold uniform of his cleaning staff. Her hands were folded, her eyes lowered. Mr. Williams squinted through the low light. "Who's that?" he asked, half to himself. He recognized her face, just vaguely. She worked in the cleaning department. Nothing special, just another one of over 50 employees. But something about her posture stopped him. When he approached, her voice was barely a whisper. "Please, sir," she said, eyes still downcast. "I want to ask for a favor. Can I take some leftover food home?" Just that. Not money, not help, not even a raise. Just food that would have otherwise been thrown away. Mr. William didn't answer right away. He studied her face, the deep tiredness in her eyes, the worn shoes on her feet, the humble tone in her voice. And something inside him shifted. Who was this woman? She didn't look like a beggar. She didn't have the voice of someone weak. Instead, there was something quietly powerful in the way she asked, like a person who had carried too much for far too long and still chose to carry it with grace. He gave her a small nod. "Okay," he said. Emma's voice trembled with gratitude as she whispered, "Thank you, sir." Then she disappeared into the kitchen. Mr. Williams stood frozen. He didn't enter his car. He didn't drive away. He simply stared at the kitchen door, his mind racing. Why would she ask for just leftover food? The thought kept circling, and in that moment, the man who had built an empire suddenly realized he didn't know the people who made it run. That night, for the first time in years, he decided to wait, not as a boss, but as a human being. He needed to know. Who was this woman? And what kind of life made her ask for food like it was a precious gift? What would you do if following someone home revealed a truth your heart wasn't ready for? Mr. William wasn't the kind of man who lingered. He was always on schedule, efficient, controlled, in command. But that night, as he watched Emma disappear back into the kitchen with nothing but a whispered, "Thank you," he didn't move. He stood by his sleek black SUV, staring at the door, thinking about the question she had asked. Just leftover food? It didn't sit right. There was a heaviness in the air, one he couldn't explain. So he made a decision that went against everything he usually did. He waited. 10 minutes passed before the kitchen door creaked open again. Emma emerged quietly, holding 2 small nylon bags. They didn't seem heavy. She clutched them like they were treasure. Mr. William ducked low into his seat, keeping his headlights off as he watched her walk away. When she reached the roadside, she boarded a crowded, run-down yellow bus. Without hesitation, he followed. The journey took them out of the city's shine and into the forgotten edges of Abuja, places where the streetlights were few and the roads were cracked. 30 long minutes passed before the bus finally stopped. Emma stepped down, still holding the bags, and walked into a dark, narrow dirt path. Mr. William parked far behind, turned off his engine, and got out on foot. There was nothing beautiful here. No signs of comfort, no shops, no light, just silence. He followed at a distance, careful not to be seen, and then he saw her stop in front of a structure, an old broken building with cracked walls, a rusty roof, and windows that barely held together. Emma walked inside, and moments later, something happened that made his chest tighten. The door swung open again, and 2 little girls came running barefoot into Emma's arms. "Mummy!" they cried, their voices full of joy. Mr. Williams stood frozen in the dark, watching as Emma dropped the nylon bags and hugged them tight. She smiled, wide, radiant, but her eyes still looked tired. She brought out the food. 1 small piece of chicken, some jollof rice. She split everything in 2. The girls ate hungrily. Emma? She didn't take a single bite. He stood in the shadows, tears forming, heart pounding. What kind of mother sacrifices her own hunger just to see her children smile? The answer was standing right there in front of him, and he would never be the same again. What does a mother's love look like when there's only 1 meal and 3 empty stomachs? In the stillness of that night, as Mr. Williams stood hidden in the shadows outside a crumbling building, he saw a scene that would haunt him forever. Through a broken window, lit only by a dim light bulb hanging from a wire, he watched Emma sit quietly on a thin mat with her 2 daughters. She had just returned from work, carrying the small plastic bags of leftover food from the restaurant. It wasn't much, just a handful of jollof rice and 1 small piece of chicken. Emma opened the bags slowly and carefully cut the food in 2. There was no hesitation, no moment of doubt. She placed each half on a plate and slid them toward her girls, who giggled and clapped as if it were a feast. They didn't know this was all there was. They didn't care. They were just happy their mother was home. and that tonight they had something warm to eat. Emma didn't eat. She sat cross-legged on the floor, her hands resting in her lap, her eyes fixed on her daughters with a soft, tired smile. Every time they took a bite, she watched with quiet joy, as though their full bellies filled her own. From where he stood, Mr. William could see the emotion in her eyes: love, pride, exhaustion, and something deeper, something sacred. She wasn't hungry for food. She was hungry for their happiness. He had expected to see poverty. He hadn't expected to witness such grace. The floor beneath them was rough, the walls cracked, the room was bare. No furniture, no decorations, just a mat and their school bags tucked neatly in a corner. Yet, in that broken space, there was peace. There was warmth. There was love greater than any luxury he had ever known. Mr. William pressed his hand to his chest. It ached, not with guilt, but with awakening. He turned away from the window for a moment, overwhelmed. How could someone have so little and still give everything? Then he turned back and saw it again. Emma, still not eating, still smiling. That image burned into his heart. Because that's what love looks like. When a mother chooses to feed her children and go to bed hungry with a smile on her face. He wiped a tear from his eye. In that moment, he knew he couldn't just walk away. Stay with us, because what happens next will restore your faith in humanity. Sometimes, it takes seeing the invisible for a powerful man to open his eyes. Back at the Golden Plate, life continued as usual, or at least it looked that way on the surface. Customers still laughed over expensive meals. Servers still glided from table to table. But for Mr. William, nothing felt the same anymore. Since that night, since he followed Emma and saw what no one else had ever cared to see, something had shifted deep inside him. He sat in his plush leather chair in his high-rise office, staring out of the glass window, but his thoughts weren't on profits or menus. They were stuck on a mother kneeling beside her children on a cracked floor, feeding them scraps and smiling like she had the world. Each morning, Emma arrived early. She swept the floors, polished the tiles, and wiped down each table with quiet precision. Her back was always straight, her face calm, and if anyone greeted her, she responded with a gentle smile. But behind that calm, Mr. William now saw something else, something most people missed. He saw grace. He saw strength. From a distance, he began watching her more closely, not in a harsh or critical way, but in silent admiration. He noticed she never came late, never complained, and never rested for long. And every evening when the restaurant lights began to dim, Emma would quietly approach the kitchen, knock softly, and ask the same humble question: "Is there any leftover food today?" Sometimes it was a few spoonfuls of rice, sometimes nothing. But she always said thank you, tucked the bag under her arm, and left without a single complaint. Mr. William couldn't stop thinking about it. How many more like her? He wondered. How many people walk into my business every day with quiet pain and silent sacrifice? He picked up his phone and called the HR manager. "We need to do better," he said simply. "Sir?" the manager replied, confused. "Our workers," Mr. William continued. "Some of them are suffering, and we don't even see it." There was a long silence. Then he gave the order that would change lives. "Raise their salaries. Make sure no one who works here goes home hungry." The HR manager nodded, stunned. "Yes, sir." Mr. William leaned back in his chair, closing his eyes. He didn't feel proud. He didn't feel like a hero. He just felt human. Because when you truly see someone, really see them, it changes everything. Don't go anywhere. Emma's journey is far from over. What if the moment you feared the most became the one that changed your life forever? The morning air inside the Golden Plate was cool and filled with the quiet clatter of cleaning tools. Emma moved swiftly between tables, her hands steady but her mind distant. She had no idea that today would be different. As she scrubbed the last corner of the floor, the head cook approached with a simple message. The boss wants to see you. Emma froze. Her heart dropped. She had done her job. She had never complained, never caused trouble. Why did he want to see her? Her hands trembled as she wiped them on her apron. "Did I do something wrong?" she whispered. The cook only shook her head. "I don't know. He just said to come." With quiet steps, Emma made her way toward the office, each footfall heavier than the last. She knocked gently. "Come in," Mr. Williams' voice called from inside. She entered slowly, keeping her head down. "Good morning, sir," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. Mr. William looked at her kindly. "Please, sit down." Emma sat, unsure of what was coming next. The room was silent for a moment, until he spoke the words that made her eyes widen in shock. "Emma, I followed you one night." Her breath caught. She looked up, confused. "You followed me?" "Yes," he replied calmly. "I saw where you live. I saw your daughters. I saw how you gave them everything, and ate nothing." Tears welled up instantly in her eyes. She looked down, ashamed, hands shaking. "I didn't mean to do anything wrong, sir. I was just trying to feed my children." Mr. Williams shook his head, his voice gentle but firm. "You did nothing wrong, Emma. You are a strong woman, a good mother." Emma couldn't hold the tears anymore. They fell silently as she covered her mouth with her hand. Then, something even more unexpected happened. "I want to help you," Mr. Williams said. "You deserve more." She looked up again, confused. That moment marked the beginning of a miracle she never saw coming. Because sometimes kindness doesn't come when we ask for it. It comes when we least expect it, from the person we thought was watching from far away. Stay with us, because the surprise Emma is about to receive will leave you speechless. What if one quiet act of compassion could rewrite an entire life story? Emma stood in front of Mr. Williams' desk, her hands nervously resting in her lap. She had been called in again, unsure of what to expect. The last conversation had already shaken her. She thought it was the end of her surprises. But today, Mr. William was smiling. "I have good news," he said warmly, handing her a folded piece of paper. Emma opened it slowly. Her eyes scanned the words, not fully understanding at first. But then, it clicked. Promotion. Personal assistant to the CEO. She looked up in shock. "Sir, I don't understand." Mr. Williams stood and nodded. "You're no longer a cleaner, Emma. You'll now work directly with me. You've earned this." Tears flooded her eyes. But before she could speak, he picked up a brown envelope from his desk. "That's not all," he said. "I've bought a small apartment for you and your girls. It's not a mansion, but it's clean, safe, and full of light. You won't have to sleep on a mat anymore." Emma's knees gave out. She dropped to the floor, overcome with emotion. Thank you, sir," she cried, clutching the envelope to her chest. She could hardly believe it. The woman who once begged quietly for leftover food was now being handed the keys to a new life. Mr. Williams smiled gently and walked over. "You and your daughters deserve comfort, Emma. You've given them everything. Now let someone give something back." The next morning, a sleek black car pulled up in front of Emma's old, crumbling home. A driver stepped out. "Mr. Williams sent me," he said. "I'm here to take you to your new home." Emma stood frozen. Her daughter's eyes widened. "Are we really moving, Mommy?" one of them asked, her voice trembling with joy. Emma nodded slowly, tears in her eyes. "Yes, baby, we're going home." They arrived at a fresh, brightly painted building with windows that opened, soft beds inside, and a kitchen that smelled like hope. The girls ran from room to room, laughing and shouting, "We have our own beds! Mommy, look! A real kitchen!" Emma stood in the center of the room, turning in slow disbelief. Because for the first time in years, she didn't feel like she was surviving. She felt like she was finally living. "Don't go anywhere." the story of Emma's new beginning is only getting brighter. What does healing look like? Sometimes it's 3 plates of warm food and the sound of children laughing. That evening, something was different in the air. The scent of jollof rice and real chicken danced through the small kitchen of their new apartment. Emma stood in front of the clean stove, stirring the pot slowly. Her eyes watched the steam rise, but her heart was focused on something deeper. Peace. Behind her, on a soft carpet, her daughters sat with wide eyes, giggling as the delicious smell wrapped around the room like a warm hug. "Mommy, you bought a lot of chicken today," the younger one exclaimed. Emma turned and smiled. "Yes, my love. Today we eat well." It was their first dinner in the new home Mr. William had gifted them. A real home, with painted walls, working lights, windows that opened, and beds that didn't sit on cracked concrete. Tonight wasn't about luxury. It was about dignity. About finally breathing without fear. When the food was ready, Emma placed it on 3 plates. No more splitting one piece of chicken in silence. No more sitting on a cold floor, pretending she wasn't hungry. Tonight, everyone had a full plate. Her daughters grabbed their food eagerly, their hands quick, their faces glowing. This is the best food ever," said the older girl, chewing happily. "It tastes like heaven," the little one added with a mouthful. Emma didn't say much. She sat down beside them, holding her plate gently. She smiled at the way they talked over each other, at how their faces lit up without worry. She took a small bite, then paused. The food was good, yes, but it wasn't just the food. It was the feeling. For the first time in a very long time, Emma wasn't afraid of the night. No fear of hunger, no fear of cold, no fear of what tomorrow might bring. She looked around the small living room. Pillows on the floor, books stacked in a corner, curtains dancing softly in the breeze. She whispered, "Thank you, God." Because this wasn't just a home, it was a promise, a beginning. And for a mother who had once gone to bed hungry just to feed her children, this quiet joy was louder than any riches. Stay with us, because tomorrow morning holds yet another beautiful surprise. Sometimes, the smallest call can mean the world to someone who's carried too much for too long. The sun poured gently through the windows of Emma's new apartment. The laughter of her daughters echoed through the freshly painted rooms as they tossed pillows and danced around the living room floor. For the first time in what felt like forever, their joy wasn't forced. It was real. Emma sat quietly on a soft chair, her eyes following their every move, her heart still struggling to believe that all of this peace, this beauty, was truly hers. And then, her phone rang. She picked it up and saw the name. Mr. William. Her heart skipped. She answered softly, "Good morning, sir." His voice was calm, warm. "Emma, I just wanted to check on you and your girls. Are you settling in okay?" Emma smiled, her voice steady but full of emotion. "Yes, sir. Thank you again. For everything." There was a pause. Then Mr. William said something she never expected. "Emma, don't come to work today." Her eyes widened. "Sir?" "Take the day off," he said. "Enjoy your new home. Cook something sweet. Sit with your daughters. Today is for you." Emma placed a hand on her chest. "Thank you, sir. Thank you so much." The call ended, but the impact stayed with her. She stood up, walked to the kitchen, and began gathering ingredients: rice, fresh vegetables, a little oil. The kitchen was clean and bright. The stove didn't flicker. The cupboard didn't creak. Everything felt safe. Her daughters ran in, still beaming. "Mommy, what are you making?" one asked, peeking into the pot. Emma turned and smiled. "Our first meal in this house." She reached out, took their little hands and said, "But first, let's thank God." The 3 knelt together by the kitchen counter, eyes closed, voices soft. They didn't ask for more. They just said thank you, because gratitude was their language now. And love was their new address. Later that day, the smell of home-cooked food filled every room. Plates were full, hearts were full, the girls laughed through every bite, and Emma, this time, ate with them. No holding back, no sacrifice tonight, just joy. Because when dignity replaces desperation and kindness replaces silence, a new chapter begins. Quiet, strong, and filled with grace. Don't click away yet, because Emma's story is more than just survival. It's a testimony of hope. In life, we often look at others through their appearance, forgetting that each person has an untold story. The story of Emma, a woman who quietly begs for leftovers every night just to feed her two young children, is a powerful reminder that silent sacrifice and sacred motherly love can be hidden behind slender figures and patient smiles. In a world full of competition, the most precious thing is not material wealth, but the wealth of kindness, understanding, and gratitude. For those who have experienced many storms in life, this lesson is even more profound. Cherish the people who silently stand by us, and if possible, reach out to help when someone needs a hand. A small act, a meal, a caring question, can sometimes be a ray of light that warms another person's life. And when we give with our hearts, life will return with peace.